Chapter 9. Traitors. Cold. I was shaking hard enough that the chains rattled above me. My wrists were bound in iron cuffs, linked to a short chain that pulled my arms up over my head. My feet barely touched the floor. Every time my legs gave out, the weight went straight into my shoulders, and I saw white. Hooks hung from the ceiling, dozens of them, some empty, some not. One of the brothers was strung up beside me. I couldn't tell who it was at first. His face was ruined, not cut clean, worked over, fingernails torn out, teeth smashed, one eye hanging loose, swinging when he twitched. He looked like something had tried to eat him and gotten bored. I stared at him for a long time before it came back. We lost. Not a bad retreat, not a hard fight, a full loss. The Ronley force we broke wasn't the main body. We knew better. We'd fought beside them before, marched with them, counted their banners. We still fell for it. Too tired, too hungry, too sure of ourselves. Simple dogs. Fuck, I croaked. My armor was gone, my weapons, everything that made me a soldier. I was dressed in rags stiff with old blood, not even my own. Somewhere down the corridor someone was screaming. York, no mistaking it. He wasn't forming words anymore, just noise. Every scream ended in a wet crack or a crunch. They were working on him. I knew that sound, I'd made it before. Not like that, but close. Someone would come for me soon. I didn't know how many of us was still alive. I didn't know how many had been killed in the ambush or finished off afterward. I knew one thing for certain. Worm Company was done. I was done. Guards passed my cell, dragging someone by the arms. His boots left dark streaks on the stone. Rusty, no armor, no helmet. Just a battered old man with a split lip and one eye nearly shut. His beard was matted with blood. He tried to lift his head when he passed my cell, but it was like his neck wouldn't listen anymore. He didn't look like a lieutenant. He looked like meat that hadn't been cut yet. They dragged him away and the corridor went quiet again. Quiet is worse down there. Gives your thoughts room to work. I lost time after that. Hours. Maybe days. There was no light to mark it, no food, no water. Just the drip of something from the ceiling and the sound of other men breaking. I started looking for a way out, the only way that mattered, a way to end it. I scraped my toes along the stone, feeling for anything sharp. A splinter, a shard, a nail, something I could cut a vein with and let it drain out before they came back. Nothing. I tried holding my breath, tried it again. My body wouldn't let me. Thought about biting my tongue off. Thought about slamming my head into the wall until it stopped working. Then York screamed again. Louder this time. Another voice joined in. Mud. Get that thing away from me, he was shouting. I'll kill your whole fucking family. That one broke me a little. I started searching harder, scraping my feet raw, breathing fast, I won't lie. I was scared. I couldn't find anything. Footsteps came. Light flickered across the bars. A man stepped into view wearing a pointed black hood, shirtless, huge gut hanging over his belt. His skin was pale and marked with old scars. He carried tools like a butcher carries knives. 2 guards dragged Pepper with them and threw him into my cell. He didn't scream when he hit the floor, just made a small sound and stopped moving. A group of nobles followed, laughing, drunk, careful not to step in too much blood. Pepper was missing a leg, both arms bent wrong, one eye gone. His face looked like it had been chewed. Pepper, I said, stay with me. He twitched, The noblemen surrounded Pepper and undid their breeches. The hooded man stopped in front of me and looked me over like livestock. He held up a pair of rusted calipers and a hooked blade. "Well," I said, "come on then, you fucker." I spat at him. He laughed and went to work. Pain took shape, took over everything. There was no up or down, just pressure and heat and the sound of my own voice doing things I didn't tell it to do. He carved my nipples, flayed my wounded hand, took a few of my toes. The noblemen took their turns with Pepper, drove me mad as I heard his painful grunts and whimpering. I tried to watch the torturer's hands, tried to stay present, tried not to listen. Didn't work. By the time they were done, Pepper wasn't moving anymore, not breathing, not blinking. They quartered him upside down along the cell bars, split him ass to mouth. One of the nobles leaned in close to me before he left, smiled, kissed my face, licked my wounds, said nothing. Then the door closed. They moved on to the next cell. I hung there in the dark, staring at what was left of Pepper until my neck gave out and my chin dropped to my chest. This was truly hell. They came for me again the next day, dragged me down a slanted ramp and dumped me into a wide chamber, circular, big enough for a market square. The floor was slick with rot and old blood, bodies piled along the walls, some fresh, some not. An arena. Gil grabbed me before I fell again. "Hark," he said. "Hark, you still breathing?" I nodded once. Foul Tom and Edgar were there too, both battered, both alive. "Where's the others?" I asked. Foul Tom spat blood. "Dead, or worse." Edgar kept scanning the walls. They'd let us regroup. That meant something was coming. "Arm yourselves," I said. "Anything sharp." We dug through corpses, through bones and scraps and things I didn't want to touch. Gil found metal, Edgar found wood, Tom found a broken hilt. I pulled a long bone from a corpse and gripped it tight. It wasn't much, but it was something. We were enraged and cornered. We weren't just going to lie down and wait for it. Not after Pepper. Not after York screaming himself hollow. Not after days of being peeled apart, one piece at a time. The sound came from behind the walls first. Not loud, not dramatic. Just the scrape of iron dragged across stone, slow and deliberate, like whatever was on the other end wanted us to hear it coming. Chains rattled. Something heavy was being hauled forward, stopping and starting, like it didn't quite fit where they wanted to put it. Gil swallowed hard. I heard it. Edgar muttered a prayer he didn't believe in anymore. Foul Tom rolled his shoulders loose and smiled, and that smile made my skin crawl worse than the chains did. The gate on the far side of the chamber creaked open. They didn't shove it out at first. They let it crawl. It came through sideways, scraping flesh along the stone, pulling itself forward with a tangle of limbs that didn't agree on how many there should be. Human arms bent the wrong way, fused into long jointed legs, clawed tips clicking and skittering as it moved. Its belly dragged low, swollen and split with old wounds that oozed yellow and red in slow, lazy streams. It stank. Rot. Wet fur. Old blood. Its head wasn't shaped like anything that belonged on a body, just a sack of flesh wrapped tight in wire, twisted and cinched until whatever face had once been there was gone. Something inside pushed against the skin, stretching it, then sinking back, like it was breathing through meat instead of air. When it inhaled, the wires creaked. When it exhaled, it made a sound like water choking down a drain. The gate slammed shut behind it. No cheers, no commands, just us and it. It didn't rush at first. It turned slowly, dragging its bulk around, feeling the room with its limbs. One claw scraped across a corpse and peeled flesh away without trying. It found us by sound, by breath, by fear. Edgar raised his broken shield. His hands were shaking so bad the rim rattled. The thing lunged, not fast like a cat, fast like a landslide, all weight and momentum and inevitability. One claw punched straight through Edgar's shield like it wasn't there. Wood split, iron buckled. The claw kept going, punched through his chest and pinned him to the floor. Edgar screamed once. Then the creature folded over him, broke a stone pillar in the process. The sound that came next wasn't a scream. It wasn't even human. It was wet and rhythmic and final. I smelled blood and shit and something coppery that burned my nose. Gil charged it, stupid, brave. He swung his scrap of metal into one of its limbs, hacking again and again. The blade bit deep and something dark poured out. The creature shrieked then, a high, tearing sound that cut straight through my skull and lodged there. It reared up. Foul Tom ran towards the broken stone pillar and pushed Gil forward, hard. Gil lost his footing in the slick mess under us and went down face first. Hands scrambling, trying to get back up. The creature was on him in seconds. There was a sound like a sack of grain hitting stone. Gil was about to scream before the creature ripped his chest and throat open. I stared at Tom. Tom met my eyes. Calm, calculating, no shame. He'd made his choice and didn't regret it. Even I wasn't that fucked up. I grit my teeth and moved. I rushed the creature while it was still feeding, jammed the bone I'd torn from a corpse into the wire-wrapped sack where its face should have been. I pushed until the wire snapped and something inside burst with a sound like a wineskin popping. It thrashed, limbs flailed. One claw caught my shoulder and ripped meat free. I barely felt it. Adrenaline drowned everything else. Then I sprinted after Tom while it was flailing. Edgar was gone. Gil was gone. We climbed the pillar out of the arena. Foul Tom stood there panting, covered head to toe in blood. His back was turned to me. I raised the bone again, thought about killing him, lowered it. "Move," I said. We didn't argue. Even if I didn't like Gil much, the fucker didn't have to do all that. Was more worried he'd do it to me next. Guards came running when they spotted us, 3 of them, armed, confident, still thinking this was entertainment, smirking like we were already dead. Tom tackled the first one before he could raise his weapon, slammed him into the wall, drove his thumbs into the man's eyes, and didn't stop until the body went slack. The second guard lunged at me. I drove the bone into his throat and kicked him away as he drowned on it. The third tried to run. I kicked him down the ramp. His scream followed him until the creature was upon him. We ran. Boots thundered behind us, shouts, horns. Too many voices. We ended up splitting up without speaking. I ducked into a side passage and nearly fell into a latrine pit. The smell hit me so hard I gagged. Didn't matter. I climbed in anyway, sinking knee-deep into filth, pressing myself into the stone as guards rushed past. I stayed there longer than I should have. Long enough to stop shaking, long enough to hate myself for being alive. When it was quiet, I crawled out. I found a guard room. There was a half-full wine barrel. I stripped, scrubbed what I could, armed myself with a short sword and took a ring of keys. Then later I found Mud, shackled, bruised, barefoot, crying, laughing, grabbing at my arms like I'd vanish if he let go. "Easy," I said. "We're still in it." He tore a torch from the wall. Those fuckers, I'll fuck their skulls, I'll... He could barely mutter his revenge. I patted him on the back. Shape the fuck up. I need you right now. We need each other. Can I count on you, brother? I asked. He took a few deep breaths before nodding. Aye. We found Howler next, wrapped in wire, mask bolted to his face like a mockery of a man. A plump nobleman stood nearby with guards preparing himself like this was sport, cock in his hand, smile on his face. We didn't give him time. Mud bit a guard's throat out before I could say my plan. He pounced on the other like a feral hound. I strangled the executioner with a low-hanging chain. I used all the strength that I had left, dug the chain deep into his flesh as his eyes nearly popped from his head. I tripped the nobleman as he tried to flee with his breeches halfway down. Mud stood over him breathing hard and did what he felt needed doing. Didn't say a word, shredded him head to toe with a flaying knife. I wanted to smile. I wanted to be happy. We couldn't take the mask off Howler. Bolts fused, flesh grown around it. We adjusted it enough for him to breathe. He babbled, half words, broken sentences, pain. They'd done things to him, things no man comes back from whole. Hark, he whispered. They'll pay for this, I swear. I spat blood onto the floor and unshackled him. I told them that Pepper was gone, that York was nearby. We found York in his cell, curled up, whimpering, mad. When we opened the door, he lunged at us like an animal, teeth snapping, eyes wild. Mud knocked him down gently. I held him until he stopped fighting. You crazy bastard! It's us, I yelled. He stared blankly up at me like he didn't recognize me. We released him slowly, only for him to sprint out of the room, barefoot, laughing, crying, shouting nonsense, vanished into the corridors. We didn't chase him. We kept moving. Howler pointed one of the guard's swords down the hall. I saw them take some of the others down there. He croaked with his raspy throat. Then that's where we'll go, I said. Mud and Howler looked at me surprised. Deeper into the dungeon? We should just... Mud couldn't finish his sentence. You want to leave them? Could you do that to our brothers? They stood there quietly, thinking it over. I'd be lying if I said it hadn't crossed my mind. I won't try to convince either of you. Run, stay, I won't blame you, I said before heading down the stairs of the dungeon. They both followed me in silence. The three of us ventured cautiously through the narrow corridors, searching room to room. The further we went, the more disgusted we became by what we saw. We heard a thwang and a tink as a crossbow bolt hit the wall behind us. Up ahead, one guard was reloading and another was squeezing the trigger. Before he could fire, someone lunged on him and stabbed him in the neck, quickly and repeatedly with a makeshift shank. It was Leech. Howler and Mud rushed the second guard and gutted him in seconds. We took their weapons. All of us had a sword now, and Mud took one of the crossbows. We looked Leech over cautiously, swords held ready. So what? We're supposed to forgive you now. You're a damn traitor. Mud spat. No, it's not like that. I didn't, Leech said with his arms raised. I wouldn't do that. Regardless if he did it or not, we need all the fighters we can get. We leave him be for now, I said. Thank you, Hark. I cut him off. Shut the fuck up. If I suspect you're going to turn on us at any point, I'll bleed you dry. Got it? He slowly nodded. I threw a short sword at his feet. Let's move. We pushed deeper until the corridor opened up into something wide. An execution hall. The smell hit first. Old blood, rot, waste, burned fat. The kind of stink that sits in your throat and won't leave. Heads lined the walls on iron spikes, some fresh, some dried down to leather and bone, arms and legs nailed up between them like trophies, fingers threaded on wire, teeth in bowls. A wheel stood in the center of the room. Raider was tied to it, arms spread wide, ropes biting deep. His chest was a map of bruises and cuts. Blood ran down his sides in slow lines. He was still alive, barely. His head hung forward, hair plastered to his face. A massive man stood over him, same black-pointed hood I'd seen before. Belly hanging heavy, thick arms like logs. He held a mallet the size of a small anvil and rested it on Raider's ribs like he was measuring where to swing next. To the left, another torturer worked Brom. Brom was naked, chained to a wooden post. His back was already ruined. The second hooded bastard swung a whip threaded with glass shards, slow and deliberate. Each strike tore more skin loose. Brom didn't scream anymore, just made a low animal sound and sagged against the chains. Cages lined the far wall, men inside them, or what used to be men, bare, filthy, eyes wild. Some laughed, some screamed, some just rocked back and forth and hooted when they saw us. They'd been left too long, broken past repair. Howler made a sound through his mask that wasn't a word. Mud tightened his grip on the crossbow. We didn't charge, not yet. I nodded once, then we moved. Mud and Leech went right. Howler and I went left. The fat one turned first. Too slow. He brought the mallet up, but Howler slammed into him shoulder first, driving him back a step. I went low, hacking at his leg. The blade bit, but not deep enough. The bastard was thick, hard to kill. He roared and swung the mallet sideways. Howler caught it on his sword, the impact ringing loud enough to hurt my ears. I stabbed again, and again. He backhanded me hard enough to send me skidding across the stone. I got up, dizzy and angry. Mud fired his crossbow. The bolt hit the second torturer in the shoulder and buried deep. He didn't go down. He just snarled and charged them. Leech was caught off guard when our target focused on him. The mallet came down on Leech's arm. I heard the bone break, felt it in my teeth. Leech went down screaming, clutching the ruin where his arm used to work. Mud didn't hesitate. He dropped the crossbow after firing and went at the bastard with his sword, hacking at his side while the torturer tried to bring the mallet up again. Howler and I kept on ours. The fat bastard was bleeding now, slow and dark. He tried to grab me. I ducked under his arm and drove my blade into his gut, twisted hard. Howler finished it. He took the man's knee out and then buried his sword up under the hood. The bastard collapsed like a sack of grain. Mud gutted the second one moments later. He didn't stop until the bastard stopped moving. Silence fell heavy. Leech was screaming. His arm was crushed flat, useless. Mud kicked the mallet away and wrapped what he could with a strip of cloth. Raider stirred. We cut him free. He dropped to his knees and stayed there for a second, breathing hard, then looked up at the mallet on the floor. He picked it up. It looked right in his hands. We freed Brom next. Mud half carried him. Brom couldn't stand on his own, skin hanging loose, eyes unfocused, still breathing. Raider took point without a word. We kept moving. The next room was worse. Guards rushed us from both sides. Raider took a bolt clean through the arm and didn't even slow down. He roared and swung the mallet, caving in helmets, breaking bodies. Men scattered. We followed him like dogs behind a boar. We freed dozens of brothers, gaunt, shaking, alive. Kyle was there too, our quartermaster, still breathing. Cutter the surgeon was not. What is left of him crawled toward us on too many limbs. Flesh split and reshaped, killed him fast. Didn't let him finish a sound, no sign of the others. Jester, Crow, Drek, Foul Tom, Bear, or even the captain. The dungeons felt like an underground city, and unfortunately we didn't have the time or energy to have a proper search. But then we found Elra, chained to a table, white dress, face painted, eyes red from crying. They'd done something awful to her. You could tell by the way her dress was stained red. Raider knelt and cut her loose. She sobbed into his chest. He held her close. A few surviving Faith militant joined our party as well. By the time we reached Rusty, there were about 36 of us. He was nailed to a crucifix. Creatures clustered around his cross, larva things, half men, soft bodies with too many teeth. They shrieked when the torchlight hit them and came at us in a wave. We fought. We lost a few men, screams, blood, teeth tearing flesh. We got Rusty down. It took 4 of us to get him off the cross. Nails came out wet. He didn't scream, just breathed hard through his teeth and kept whispering names under his breath like he was counting the dead. He couldn't stand on his own. Raider and 2 others held him up by the arms. His boots dragged. Blood ran down his calves and pooled at his heels. Rusty was a tough bastard, always had been. But when he looked at us then, I saw something else behind his eyes. Relief, shock, and something close to grief. "Up," he said after a moment. His voice cracked once and then steadied. "Captain's above." That stopped a few of the men cold. Someone behind me muttered, "Fuck that." Another said, "We get out now, while we still can." The Faith boys started arguing among themselves, talking about the legate, about the Godseed, about duty and signs and whatever nonsense kept them breathing. Rusty shook his head, slow, deliberate. "Not without him," he said. Raider stepped forward. His face was set, no doubt in it at all. "All of this," he gestured around at the blood and the broken bodies, "means nothing if we leave him here." No one answered right away. I hated that they were right. I nodded once, didn't trust myself to speak. We turned back toward the main stair. The climb took forever. The stairwell wound up through the dungeon like a throat, narrow, steep, slick with blood and water and worse. We killed guards as we went. Some fought, some begged. We didn't stop. Every body meant another sword, another piece of armor we could strap on, another scrap of advantage. We were past mercy, past pride. We were scavenging our way back into the world. At one landing, a guard dropped his weapon and fell to his knees. Raider crushed his skull with the mallet without slowing down. Nobody said a word. By the time we reached the upper gate, my legs were shaking so bad I had to stop and lean on my sword. My hands were numb. Everything hurt. Only a handful of guards waited at the exit, lazy, confident. They weren't expecting anything to come back up from below. They were wrong. When the doors finally opened, a few of the lads laughed. Just a breath of sound. Relief spilling out before they could stop it. Fresh air. Open space. Then we stepped into the courtyard, and the laughter died. Something huge was moving out there. A giant thing, 30 feet, maybe more. Hard to tell with the way it hunched and swayed. Its skin hung loose in places, stretched tight in others, like it didn't quite fit what it had become. Ronley's soldiers spilled from its fists as it walked, crushed and torn, their armor bending like tin. The sky above was off, deep red, too dark, like sunset stretched too far. Something wet drifted down from it, Droplets spattered on the stones and steamed faintly. The giant lifted one hand and bit down on the men tangled in its fingers. Chewed, slow, messy. Then it turned toward us. It had York's face, stretched, distorted, eyes too big, mouth too wide. "York?" Mud said, his voice barely there. "By the gods," Rusty whispered. The thing saw us. It groaned, long and deep. The sound rolled across the courtyard and shook the stones under our feet. Then it charged. "Spread out!" Rusty shouted. "Run!" We scattered. Men sprinted in every direction. Some hugged the walls. Some ran straight for the main gate. Mud, Rusty and I broke for the castle doors. Anywhere but there. The giant swept an arm across the courtyard. Men vanished. Kylo, Jar, Mort, gone in a single motion. Crushed so hard there wasn't time for sound. Chalker flew over the ramparts like he weighed nothing. Nile hit the stones and didn't move again. It wasn't a fight. It was slaughter. We reached the doors because the giant grabbed Boulder instead of me. I heard his bones snap when he went up. That sound will stay with me until I die. We slammed the doors shut behind us and barred them out of instinct, knowing full well it wouldn't matter. We stood there gasping, barefoot, bloody, shaking. Rusty broke first. "The captain," he said. We followed his gaze. Varn sat at the far end of the hall, waiting. He wore armor I didn't recognize, crimson, too perfect. Plates fitted so cleanly they looked grown instead of forged. He looked bigger than I remembered, broader, heavier in a way that had nothing to do with muscle. A halberd rested beside his chair. Fresh blood dripped from its blade. The hall was ruined. Furniture smashed, bodies everywhere, blood deep enough to soak our boots. The legate hung nearby, nailed to an inverted cross. His body carved up with symbols I didn't understand and didn't want to. Rusty took a step forward. "Varn, what happened to you? What's going on?" Varn stood. Slow. Easy. The child was never meant to be protected. It was meant to be consumed. "I understand that now," he said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. My stomach dropped when I realized what he meant. He looked at us, at Rusty, at Mud. "I am sorry for what I must do." Then he moved. He crossed the room in a blink and cut Mud in half. No struggle, no warning. Mud looked at me once, eyes wide, confused. Then his body slid apart. Something broke in my chest. I screamed with rage and panic. Varn backhanded Rusty into the crucifix, shattering wood and bone alike. Rusty collapsed in a heap. The halberd came for me. I ducked, slashed with everything I had. The blade rang and shattered. I stared at the broken steel in my hand. He kicked me into the wall, hard enough to drive the air from my lungs, hard enough to break something inside me. I slid down beside the hearth, coughing blood. He stepped toward me. He raised the halberd. Raider came out of nowhere and hit him from the side. The blow staggered him, just a little. Raider didn't stop. He roared and swung and dodged and struck again and again. He couldn't hurt Varn, but he wouldn't fall either. He landed several heavy blows on Varn's stoic face. I felt a hand grab my shoulder. "Crow." "Get up," he said. We ran. Behind us, Raider fought. That was the first time I ever prayed for someone else. I don't know how long we ran. I don't know how many made it out or how many died screaming. I don't know if Raider or Rusty are still alive. I know that my friend Mud is dead. I know York is gone in a way death would have been kinder. And I know the captain isn't our captain anymore. Whatever was wearing Varn's face wasn't a man. It wasn't our commander. It was something else, and I will see its head on a spike before I die.